Imagine a country that was once almost invisible on the global map, where the desert stretched endlessly and life was dictated by harsh climates and scarcity. Today, that same country sits atop one of the largest fortunes in the world, controlling a resource so vital that it shapes economies, politics, and even wars across continents. That country is Saudi Arabia, and its story isn't just about finding oil, it's a masterclass in resource control, strategic thinking, and long-term planning that transformed a barren desert into a kingdom of unimaginable wealth. The journey begins in the early 20th century when Saudi Arabia, or rather, the regions that would become the kingdom, were largely tribal lands, marked by small settlements and limited resources. The economy was modest, driven by trade routes, limited agriculture, and pilgrimage revenues from the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Life was tough, and wealth was scarce, with most of the population engaged in subsistence farming, herding, and small-scale trade. But beneath the sand and sun-baked rocks lay a secret so powerful that it would one day redefine the nation's destiny. Oil wasn't discovered overnight, and it certainly didn't appear without careful exploration. In fact, Saudi Arabia's path to wealth was paved by patience, negotiation, and strategic partnerships. In the 1930s, an American company, Standard Oil of California, began exploration efforts, eventually leading to the discovery of oil in 1938 at Damam No. 7. This single discovery changed everything. At first, it was seen as a curiosity, a potential revenue source, but not the game-changer it would become. Saudi leaders recognized that oil wasn't just a commodity, it was a tool, lever of power, and a way to secure long-term influence on the world stage. The transformation didn't happen by accident. Saudi Arabia's leaders understood that controlling resources wasn't just about extracting them, it was about managing who could buy them, under what terms, and how to maintain sovereignty while bringing in foreign expertise and investment. They signed deals carefully, always maintaining the upper hand in negotiations, ensuring that the kingdom wouldn't just be a passive supplier, but an active player shaping the global energy market. By the 1970s, Saudi Arabia's vision began to bear fruit. As oil prices skyrocketed, geopolitical tensions grew, and the world realized the immense strategic importance of the Middle East. What made Saudi Arabia unique wasn't just the oil itself, but how the country leveraged it. While other nations with resources often fell victim to the resource curse, where wealth leads to corruption, instability, and stagnations, Saudi Arabia invested in its infrastructure, modernized its cities, and gradually built the institutions needed to handle large-scale wealth. Roads, schools, hospitals, and eventually airports and cities like Riyadh and Jeddah emerged, transforming society and creating a foundation for sustained growth. Another critical factor in Saudi Arabia's rise was timing. The kingdom capitalized on global events in ways that would be hard for any other nation to replicate. During the 1973 oil embargo, Saudi Arabia demonstrated the power of resource control, halting oil supplies to nations supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War. The embargo sent shockwaves across the globe, forcing countries to rethink energy policies, creating a sudden surge in oil prices, and establishing Saudi Arabia as a key influencer in international politics. This was a textbook example of understanding not just the value of a resource, but its strategic potential, a lesson in power that many governments, corporations, and leaders still study today. But wealth, as anyone who studies economics knows, is only as sustainable as the systems that manage it. Saudi Arabia avoided relying solely on oil by slowly diversifying its economy, investing in sectors like petrochemicals, construction, and even tourism. Vision 2030, the ambitious plan launched in recent years, aims to reduce dependence on oil, develop public service sectors, and create investment opportunities that will continue generating wealth for decades. This forward-thinking approach isn't just about money, it's about influence, security, and ensuring that the kingdom remains a central player in global affairs, regardless of what happens to oil markets. Saudi Arabia's story also teaches a broader lesson about control. The kingdom didn't just get rich by having oil, it got rich by understanding how to control it, how to use scarcity and timing to its advantage, and how to negotiate from a position of strength. Oil was the tool, but strategy was the engine. The leaders understood that wealth alone is fragile, but when combined with political acumen, careful planning, and global partnerships, it becomes power. And power, in turn, can sustain wealth indefinitely, as long as it is managed intelligently. In addition, Saudi Arabia's approach to partnerships was unique. Unlike many nations that either resisted foreign involvement or ceded too much control, Saudi Arabia struck a delicate balance. They allowed foreign companies to explore, invest, and bring in expertise, but always retained ownership of the resources and ultimate decision-making authority. This model ensured that the kingdom could harness global technology and capital without losing sovereignty over its most valuable asset. It's a lesson in negotiation, patience, and long-term thinking that financial analysts and policymakers around the world still reference. Beyond oil, the wealth generated fueled cultural and societal changes that reinforced stability. Education programs, infrastructure development, and strategic investments in cities created new economic opportunities for citizens. Helping to maintain internal cohesion and social stability, the monarchy's ability to distribute wealth, fund projects, and plan for the long term helped prevent the kind of civil unrest or instability that has plagued resource-rich nations elsewhere. In essence, Saudi Arabia combined economic foresight with social management to create a wealth ecosystem that was both powerful and sustainable. Moreover, Saudi Arabia's rise isn't just a story of domestic decisions, it's a global lesson in understanding market dynamics. The kingdom recognized that oil is not just a commodity, but a currency of influence. By mastering pricing, supply control, and alliances through organizations like OPEC, Saudi Arabia could influence global energy markets in ways that few other countries could. The ability to sway economies, negotiate with superpowers, and shape geopolitical outcomes all stemmed from understanding the true power of a resource beyond its immediate monetary value. Today, the kingdom's wealth is undeniable, but the real lesson lies in the path taken. From barren deserts and modest tribal economies to a hub of global influence, Saudi Arabia exemplifies how strategic vision, careful resource management, and an understanding of both domestic and international markets can transform a nation. It's not just about discovering oil, it's about knowing how to wield it, how to protect it, and how to turn it into sustained prosperity. This masterclass in resource control goes beyond Saudi Arabia. It's a blueprint for understanding how nations can leverage scarce assets, plan for long-term growth, and position themselves as global players. By studying the kingdom's journey, investors, policymakers, and business leaders gain insights into timing, negotiation, and strategic thinking at a level few countries have ever demonstrated. As the sun set over the endless desert, Saudi Arabia was no longer just a country defined by oil. It had become a symbol of what careful planning and strategic thinking could achieve. But the story doesn't stop there. The leaders of the kingdom understood that relying solely on oil, even when it has been a source of immense wealth for decades, is risky. Markets fluctuate, technology evolves, and the world is slowly moving toward renewable energy. If Saudi Arabia wanted to remain a global powerhouse, it needed to think beyond oil. This realization gave birth to one of the most ambitious and transformative plans the country has ever undertaken: Vision 2030. Vision 2030 isn't just an economic plan, it's a blueprint for reinventing the kingdom's identity, economy, and global role. The goal is clear: reduce dependency on oil, diversify the economy, and create a society that thrives on innovation, investment, and sustainable growth. At its core, Vision 2030 is about foresight, cognizing that wealth must evolve to endure. For decades, Saudi Arabia's fortunes were tied to oil prices, which could rise and fall due to factors entirely outside the kingdom's control. Vision 2030 flips that model, creating new pillars of growth that are under Saudi Arabia's influence. From tourism and technology to renewable energy and entertainment, a major focus of this transformation is the creation of non-oil industries that can generate long-term wealth. Tourism, for instance, is no longer just about religious pilgrimages. The kingdom is investing billions into luxury resorts, historical preservation, and natural wonders, aiming to attract millions of international visitors each year. Cities like Neom, a futuristic smart city spanning thousands of square kilometers, are designed to be hubs for technology, innovation, and sustainable living. Imagine a city where AI, renewable energy, and cutting-edge infrastructure converge not just as an experiment, but as a fully operational economic engine. This isn't science fiction. It's Saudi Arabia engineering its future. Entertainment is another sector seeing dramatic growth. Concerts, cinemas, sports, and cultural events, once rare in the kingdom, are now flourishing. The goal is to create jobs, stimulate domestic spending, and attract foreign investment. Saudi Arabia is signaling to the world that its economy is no longer a one-dimensional oil machine, but a multi-faceted ecosystem capable of competing with global hubs in finance, culture, and technology. Beyond domestic projects, Saudi Arabia has made some of the largest strategic investments in the world. Sovereign wealth funds like the Public Investment Fund, valued at hundreds of billions of dollars, are used to acquire stakes in companies ranging from electric vehicle manufacturers to tech giants. By investing internationally, the kingdom not only diversifies its income streams, but also positions itself as a global influencer. It's capable of shaping industries and trends far beyond its borders. These investments aren't random. They're calculated moves that reflect a deep understanding of the global economy and the shifts that will define the 21st century. Energy, of course, remains central, but the kingdom is no longer placing all its bets on oil. Renewable energy initiatives, including solar and wind projects, are rapidly expanding. Saudi Arabia has some of the world's most favorable conditions for solar power, with vast desert lands and abundant sunlight, and the kingdom is now leveraging these natural advantages. The shift isn't just about sustainability. It's a strategic hedge against a future where oil may lose its dominance, ensuring that Saudi Arabia remains an energy powerhouse, regardless of global market shifts.